This is Prince Handley coming to you with 100,000 watts of pure love, the voice of Israel and for Israel. I want to talk to you today about Goldstone, Gideon, and God. Israel, I have not prophesied to you for 2 months now. You were not listening. At least you were not obeying the word of the Lord to you. However, I have to give you a message today. The Goldstone Report is a psychological warfare tactic against Israel to keep you from attacking Iran. It is literally spawned from the pit of hell. Israel, what do you care about what your enemies think about you? What are you afraid of? Why are you afraid of the opinions of other people and other nations when God is for you? Israel does not need legitimacy for attacking Iran. Israel does not need legitimacy for defending itself in 1967, in 1973, or in 2009. Stop global whimping, Israel. Yes, you are not the largest military on earth. However, the Lord commanded Gideon to reduce his forces by over 99%, from 32,000 to 300. You don't need the U.S., the EU, or the UN. Why lean on something that will break anyway? They're not going to help you. How many times do I have to tell you that? It is time for you to trust God, Israel. Listen to these recent headlines, Israel. Number 1, Israel planned to attack Iran after December when it became clear that the talks between the 6 powers and Tehran had failed to produce any benefit. I told you Israel would not be wise to attack at the latest after November 2009. I also told you that Iran would wiggle around and do anything, whether negotiating or not negotiating, to buy time. Second headline. 6 nations, the U.S., Holland, Italy, Ukraine, Hungary, and Slovakia, voted against the Goldstone Report. 11 abstained, and 5 members, including France and Britain, in other words, Gordon Brown and French President Nicolas Sarkozy, did not take part in the vote. Israel, I have warned you many times not to trust EU. Headline number 3. Hillary Clinton's bid for Russia to back sanctions is snubbed. I told you that Russia would not go against Iran. Why do you think they've been supplying training and supplying nuclear material and know-how to Iran? Notice, Russia may choose not to sell the S-300 missile system to Iran because it may make more money from selling the S-400 or the more advanced system to Saudi Arabia. Headline number 4. Israel enraged by the UN Human Rights Council endorsement of the controversial Goldstone Report. I've warned you many times, Israel, not to depend on the UN, the EU, or the U.S. Headline number 5. Turkey's or Erdogan's violent anti-Israel and borderline anti-Semitic attitude is no passing phase. Israel must reconcile itself to the loss of this valuable ally. Israel, I warned you at least 3 times that Turkey would be the epicenter of the new Muslim alliance, that it would turn away from the West. Actually, 1 month after I said that and asked that question, would they do this, they did it. And I told you they would become the center of the New World governance. Headline number 6. Russia is assuming a major role in the region or in the Middle East with the full support of the Obama administration, part of its plan for a new diplomatic military front against Iran composed of the U.S., Russia, and Middle East nations. Israel, I told you several times that President Obama would turn his back on you. Remember, one of Barack Obama's first acts as U.S. President was to reach out to the Muslim world. And headline number 7, Iranian news agency was informed by an aide of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei that the new nuclear plant would become operational soon. Previously, Ahmadinejad had said the new plant will not be for 18 months. Another headline pertaining to the same event, detonators for nuclear bombs are in production at 2 secret sites. And another headline pertaining to the same event, Tehran opens home enrichment plant to inspection October 25, but it hides other facilities. Israel, I told you that Islamic leaders and diplomats and normal Muslims will lie to you. That is, any Muslims that follow the Quran. According to the Islamic precepts of Kitman and Taqiyya, Muslims are allowed to deliberately conceal, that is, practice deception in the name of or for Allah. In the Quran, the false non-entity God Allah calls himself Khairul Makharin, which means literally the greatest of all deceivers. You can read that in the Quran in 3.54. I told you several times, Israel, that Iran is buying and will buy time to gain the greatest advantage for its nuclear ambitions, even if it agrees and then disagrees to negotiations, whatever it takes until it has the goods to destroy you. Israel, I have told you for 3 years to attack Iran now, before it's too late. I have prophesied to you about 7 directives in the last year alone that have come to pass already, Israel. I've prophesied to you specifically about Iran, Turkey, Obama, the EU, the U.S., Russia, and the UN. Here's just a few of the recent podcasts. Kahane, King Solomon, Kahuna's Covenant and Economy. Israel and Bibi, Beware the 5 Blind Mice. Israel, New Forces in Middle East Parlance. A Message to Benjamin Netanyahu. Bibi, Babylon and Bama, Land for Peace, Petra and Prophecy. Israel and the Triumvirate of Testing, Turkey, Iran, and Russia. Israel, you have not passed this way before. Protection from terrorism and pandemics. Many Muslims turning to Messiah of Israel. Israel, the turning point. Israel, Iran, and Turkey, the Jerusalem factor. Israel, how to prepare for war. Israel, a plain path. Confidential intel for Israel. Directions from Israel and the New World Leader. Israel, investments and economy, surviving the next 7 years. Israel and Gaza, miracles that happened. Israel, analysis, advice, and action. Israel, times and actions for military success. You could have already won the war against Iran by now, Israel. I can't babysit you. Start listening to the voice of Israel. If you had listened to me in any one of those podcasts, you would have already destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities. start listening to the voice of Israel. Reread or listen to the podcast and the show notes that I have linked to in the show notes included with this podcast. And then do what God tells you to do, Israel. In the show notes of this podcast, I'm giving you two sources. There are many more online, but I've given you two where you can actually read full text of the podcast. Yes, Israel, don't worry about Goldstone. Just remember Gideon and trust God. I want to give you some promises for battle. Though I walk in the midst of trouble, you will revive me. You will stretch forth your hand against the wrath of my enemies, and your right hand shall save me. Psalm 138, verse 7. Then they cry unto the Lord in their trouble, and he saves them out of their distresses. Psalm 107, verse 19. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knows them that trust in him. Nahum 1:7. 1,000 shall fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Psalm 91, verse 7. And Jehoshaphat feared and set himself to seek the Lord, and proclaimed a fast throughout all Judah. 2 Chronicles 20, verse 3. For the battle is not yours, but God's. 2 Chronicles 20, verse 15. Believe in the Lord your God, so shall you be established. Believe his prophets, so shall you prosper. 2 Chronicles 20, verse 20. For the Lord had made them to rejoice over their enemies. 2 Chronicles 20, verse 27. And the fear of God was on all the kingdoms of those countries when they heard that the Lord fought against the enemies of Israel. 2 Chronicles 20, verse 29. So again, Israel, don't worry about Goldstone. Just remember Gideon and trust the Lord your God. This is the voice of Israel, and this is your friend, Prince Handley, coming to you with 100,000 watts of pure love. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai.